Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to reconvene the regular board meeting. Clerk of the board, please call roll.
Hall. She's muted, but she's saying, there she is.
Yeah.
Solis.
Present.
Pike.
Here.
Segura.
Here.
Tarantino.
Here.
Aguirre.
Here.
And Ms. Adamos, the student, was unavailable for this evening.
All right, thank you. We'll now hold a moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance. If Mr. Pike, you lead the Pledge of Allegiance. And the moment of silence, if we could remember, we lost two employees who worked at at our school sites. We haven't talked to their families to say their names, but if we could just think about those two employees who were part of the Sweetwater family that passed away recently, and your thoughts, we appreciate that. And with that, let's go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Everyone, please stand. Put your hand over your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. The board met in closed session preceding this meeting to discuss the following issues. 1, public employee dismissal, discipline, release, reclassification, reassignment, resignation, transfer, Government Code Section 54957. 2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2, subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. 3, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. The board took no reportable action. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the October 26, 2020 regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Solis.
I'll second.
Thank you. Vote, please.
Hall.
Yes.
Solis.
Yes.
Pike.
Yes.
Segura.
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We will now provide an opportunity for the San Diego County Office of Ed representative, Dr. Mark Scamarna, to make any comments.
No comment tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll now have an update from our acting superintendent, Dr. Moisegetti.
Thank you, President Segura. Good evening, everybody. This evening, I would like to recognize the work of our bargaining teams and the collaboration by the district with our labor associations. Specifically, this weekend, we arrived at an agreement with Sweetwater Education Association to provide in-person supports in a limited capacity for our identified students that need additional supports. This arrangement is in addition to the in-person assessments, which we have already begun. It's important to clarify that district-wide, the distance learning model remains, but this agreement will allow us to provide additional in-person small group supports in a limited capacity on our school sites. Beginning this week, school personnel will be contacting students who have been identified for these supports. These supports are scheduled to begin as soon as November 5th. We are working to launch these supports in outdoor settings whenever possible. We have secured pop-up shade structures for use around our campuses. Also, we are working to procure and install ionizers for classrooms for when the weather does not permit outdoor meetings. In preparation for in-person small group supports, our team has been conducting school visits at the following sites: Bonita Vista High School, Sweetwater High School, National City Middle School, San Isidro High School, Southwest Middle School, and Chula Vista High School. These visits have been part of our process to calibrate our COVID-19 protocols to observe appropriate measures for the health and safety in a small group support setting. We appreciate the leadership of our classified and certificated associations, as well as the site faculty advisory committee members joining us on some of these visits. Additionally, our athletics office will begin contacting site administrators, athletic directors, and coaches about the possibility of starting small group preseason conditioning prior to the official start of sports on December 12th. Also last week, Dr. Alvarez, Dr. Reyes, and I met with a group of librarians from our school sites to listen to their concerns and experiences during distance learning. We discussed about how best to provide library-related supports that our students need now and when we reopen our school sites. Overall, as you can see, we are working diligently to find a balance between ensuring the safety of our students and staff while providing opportunities for essential student supports. Consistent with the board's reopening plan, we'll do everything we can to find this balance, following local, county, and state guidance, and with an eye on our own local COVID-19 numbers. Thank you for the opportunity to serve, and that's it for tonight.
Can't hear you, Nick.
How about now?
Yep.
All right. Thank you for that great news and all the hard work that went into that. And I truly appreciate that. I know the community too, and as well. So let's move on to C1. The board members received a copy of the DLAC report. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, I have a comment.
Mr. Pike.
I just wanted to, first of all, thank all the parents that asked those pointed questions in that. It was a whole section of it where they had questions and concerns about what's going on with our district. How are we handling it? It was really in depth, and I really believe that everybody should be told those answers. And the district, on one side that their questions were, on the other side the district said this is what we're doing. And I think we need to let the people know exactly all those steps that we're doing, because it was wonderful. I really appreciate the time they took, and all whoever the staff was that answered all their questions. And I think a lot of people out there who are not in this area don't get this type of information, because obviously they're not asking those questions to the right people, or maybe they're not getting the answers. But if we could provide that to everybody, not just DLAC, it would be great. But tell them thank you very much, and I appreciated it.
Thank you, Mr. Pike. Was there any other board members that wanted to comment? I can't see. I'm looking at the document, so I can't see you if you want to say anything.
Mr. Tarantino has his hand raised.
Please, Mr. Tarantino, thank you.
I just want to say amen to what Mr. Pike just said. He said everything that I was going to say. So, and I agree with his suggestion that maybe it should be put on the website so all of our stakeholders can see it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tarantino. I would echo all those comments, and I was very, there were some really poignant questions in there, and I liked all the questions, and I liked the responses by the district as well. So there's a lot of information in there, and I want to thank the president, Guadalupe Estrada. That's correct, right? She's the president, and
yes,
the DLAC president, and I just want to thank her for this document, for the time and the effort that her and the community put into this document, and then on the district's responses to that. That was very well done. Anybody else wanted to say anything? I can't see you, so just speak.
Mrs. Paul.
Yes. I just wanted to echo your remarks, President Segura and Mr. Pike. I really appreciate your enthusiastically calling out the president, Guadalupe Estrada, and not only that, the DPAC, but I mean the DLAC, the English Learners Advisory Committee, but just the District Parent Advisory Committee. They have joint meetings often, and those are representatives from every school, one or two each on each committee. I think that's very commendable, because they're obviously committed a lot of time to something that's not as popular to do, perhaps, as like a booster club for athletics or cheer or something. It's much more on the governance side and sometimes very dry, but they take it seriously. They've done a tremendous amount of work, and I think we commend that work. And maybe normally every year they have a recognition ceremony for those parents. Maybe we could have it when we're back in person. We could actually have them come to a board meeting and recognize them at a board meeting. And I wanted to thank the staff, Dr. Griselda Delgado, who is over the federal and state programs, and also Dr. Ana Maria Alvarez, because it's under her wing of the district that this activity and these engagements are ongoing. And she was attending a lot of those meetings to address the questions and provide answers, the deep answers from an educator's point of view, and that's really key. They're hearing it from the person leading the instruction on that side and the efforts over there, and it's really great. And I think it would be great for Dr. Aguirre to attend one of their meetings soon, because I think they really would appreciate everything he's doing for the district, and seeing to hear about him, where he's from and how he's engaged, not only as our superintendent, but as a parent of children in our district. I think he has a key role to offer. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. There's no action on that, correct?
No, I will forward the audio from the meeting to the DLAC president so they can hear your comments.
Great. Let's move to D1. Conduct a public hearing and adopt resolution number 4696, authorizing and directing conveyance of easement in gross to the Sweetwater Authority. I will now open the public hearing. Are there any speakers?
There are no speakers.
The public hearing, I don't think anybody from the...
It's not pulled by the board members.
Nope, it wasn't pulled by board members. The public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution number 4696, or any questions on it?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Vote please.
Hall,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, let's go to D2. This is a point on the agenda where members of the public may address the board on any matter not on the agenda and have 3 minutes each to do so. The Board of Trustees cannot legally take action on or respond to matters not posted on the public agenda, but refer the matter to the superintendent's office for review and report. Speakers' comments shall refrain from using profanity and shall be presented in a respectful manner. Thank you for your cooperation.
Yes, I have comments from 6 speakers. The first speaker is Alma Lowe. We have received a copy of the latest CIF San Diego letter, which allows our children to resume conditioning and practices. Our children in the South Bay are prohibited from doing sports-related activities. What COVID numbers do we need to get to resume safely? Is the city of Chula Vista using different numbers than Sweetwater? City parks are open for clubs to practice. Is their data different than that of our district? Why is there a disparity between our city allowances versus district? Our children are being affected by school and sport closures. We have attempted to protect them from a virus that is low risk to young children and teenagers, but in actuality, we are hurting them more. Your plan to protect them has led to increases in suicide, drug usage, increased home abuse, and other negative consequences. My children are struggling mentally, socially, and academically because of these closures. My once 4.0 GPA high school sophomore is now struggling to keep up with distance learning while managing stress, anxiety, and emotional distress due to not knowing what will happen to his football aspirations to play in a D1, D2 college. Many children are suffering way more from all of this than from a virus that has a 99% survivable rate. Please open up our schools and sports, allow dreams to be pursued, support their mental and emotional state by returning them to the classroom and fields. We can no longer sit back and watch our children suffer. You have it in your power to open safely. No excuse for Sweetwater being the only district to not resume practices. No more excuses. The next comments are from Ashley Dahlstrom. Dear board members, community member Kimberly Dixon submitted the same public comment, and I would like to do the same to reiterate my point of praise for Sweetwater and SEA. The best thing Sweetwater did this calendar year was release a substantial reopening plan for schools based on checkpoints, local data, and science. There is already speculation about the November 30th checkpoint, and the president has already determined the numbers will make our January decision. I applaud the board and SEA for sticking to the reopening plans that led our direct via science and critical thinking, not knee-jerk reactions and political theater. This plan is all or nothing. All zip codes are either safe or not. I couldn't imagine the outcry if students west of the 5 could not attend in person due to their zip code, COVID's numbers, while schools off the 125 are in session. That is what it means to be inequitable, and that is what Sweetwater SDA is planning against. This weekend, we suffered 2 atrocities, loss of a staff member from my site and loss of U.S. empathy. Chief of Staff Mark Meadows announced the White House will no longer focus on controlling the pandemic, but instead focus on vaccine production and therapeutics. I believe Sweetwater board members and Dr. Aguirre are more capable of protecting whom we serve with a greater sense of love and compassion than our government. Please continue to protect our most vulnerable, and we hope for better news on November 30th. The next comments are from Jenny Fallon. There are constant calls for rallies to voice opinions on reopening Sweetwater schools. I want to make sure my voice is heard on this matter as well. I'm a parent of 2 sophomores at Eastlake High. At this time, I do not support starting a hybrid on-campus virtual model. I feel it would be too disruptive for my children to attend classes on campus part-time currently, with the good chance that they could come into contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19 and then have to be quarantined. I feel that would be a disruption to a second routine that would have had to be established for this school year once a hybrid model begins. Also, the possibility of having a teacher out and not able to teach a substitute is also a problem that would be an increased chance of having if the hybrid model is in place for the entire school. Currently, virtual learning is a positive experience for them. Moving to a hybrid model at this point would be a period of transition better left to the beginning of a semester or academic school year. Currently, my children are comfortable in the virtual learning environment, and when we have spoken to them on the matter, if given the choice, they say they would prefer to remain like this at this time. They are performing well. For them, this synchronized virtual learning is working. I am also concerned that should they contract COVID-19, the possibility is always there that they have a difficult case. I am also high risk. My spouse is active duty and is in an active deployment schedule and needs to remain ready to leave at any time. We have carefully weighed our decision on our children's academic performances, their mental well-being, our family's best health, and overall employment scenario to keep us as a family unit at this point. When the school administrator and the Governor's Office of California have determined that the time has come to safely open our schools, we will reevaluate our situation then. But I feel any hybrid offerings would be best met to service special education students, at-risk students, students not meeting academic goals, students who do not have study capabilities at home for virtual learning, and then if there is any availability left, students that may choose to spend time on campus. When on-campus classes do resume, there must be a priority to students that have needs rather than students that have desires, because school at this juncture is not for a social experience until there is a more effective way other than sanitation and mask wearing to control the spread of the virus. So at this point, I do not support any reopening of the schools in a hybrid model unless it is with the exception to services to those extreme cases of need at this time, so it minimizes the impact of cases within our school community. Thank you. The next comments are from Katie Davidson Brovick. Students in the Sweetwater Union High School District are at a disadvantage due to the board members' greed and mismanagement of funds. As the schools and sports closure for our students and athletes continues, it becomes more and more apparent that the schools are only shuttered and high school sports banned in an attempt to make up for the deficit caused by you, the board members. You keep saying that, quote, the numbers in the South Bay are to blame. However, our numbers in the South Bay per capita are very similar to El Cajon's numbers and much lower than Spring Valley's numbers. Schools in those areas have been reopened, at least in some extent, in person. Those student athletes are also allowed to practice and train per CIF rules and guidelines. Why are schools and sports in nearby areas with much higher numbers open? Is it because they don't have corrupt boards who only serve themselves and their interests instead of the interests of the children? Is it because Sweetwater used all the $42 million CARES Act money to make up for the deficit caused by the board? It is time for you all to act in the best interests of the students and reopen sports and schools for the families who need it. This inequity has gone on long enough, and you should all step down so that your positions can be filled by people who will put education and the well-being of our children above their own interests. The next comments are from Kimberly Dixon. Dear Sweetwater board members, I am writing to you regarding the lack of access to sports in our district. CIF is allowing athletics, and yet Sweetwater won't open its facilities. Parents met with Dr. Vernon Moore in September, and he said that, quote, shortly after fall break, We would have sports available for our athletes. As you know, we are the only high school district in San Diego County without access to athletics. I challenge you to visit schools in the Grossmont district at 3 p.m. on any weekday. You will see athletes on the fields and in their pools. This is in contrast to the Sweetwater facilities, which are empty. If you look at the COVID numbers based on city population per 100,000 in the Grossmont district, they are very similar to Sweetwater. In fact, Spring Valley is the highest, yet they are able to open their facilities safely to the students for athletics. So please don't use a vague excuse of when the numbers allow to justify keeping the facilities closed. Grossmont District has been safely allowing athletics for several months as they have made preparations. Why was Sweetwater not prepared? Our students are being left out due to the district's decision to keep the facilities closed for athletics. You are creating an inequality for our South Bay students, many of whom are underserved, low income, and at risk. Our students need you to open up to athletics ASAP. Provide the same opportunity that students would be allowed in other districts. I am asking that you communicate your plan for athletics with concrete dates for reopening. What steps have been taken to secure contracts for aquatic facilities since we have limited pools available? We need communication and transparency. The district has not communicated a plan regarding athletics with the community. Many families are left wondering if you will ever open up your facilities for athletics. It's unfair and unfortunate that you are cheating your students out of the opportunity for athletics. The next comments are from Matt Dixon. Dear Sweetwater board members and Superintendent Aguirre, I would like to remind you that the decision to keep our schools closed rejects the science we know about COVID-19, ignores the advice of medical experts, and disproportionately harms a most vulnerable population. The risk of collateral damage from keeping the district closed outweighs the risk of COVID, especially in our underserved population. In a recent letter from Mayor Falconer to Gavin Newsom, he indicates that the Black, Latino, low-income students, students with special needs, and homeless and foster youth are particularly at risk of falling behind. We are facing the largest education equity crisis in our lifetime. The letter states reopening our schools for in-person learning is critical for equity for our most vulnerable students. Help our community repair the inequality that virtual learning has created. Parents want a choice to return to in-person education. Choice is the key word. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Your survey showed that 2/3 of families wanted to be back on campus for in-person education in some capacity. I remind you that you are elected by our community to represent our needs. Our families need to be allowed to choose either virtual or in-person instruction. Many other districts are allowing families to choose. Why not Sweetwater? Was the district simply not prepared despite the many months you have had to make arrangements? What is the delay? Frequently, the district cites the numbers as a reason for staying in virtual learning. I will remind you that the numbers are meeting your reopening metrics and have been for several weeks. Has the board reviewed the metrics? Do you all understand that the zip codes have been meeting the metrics? Does the community know that the zip codes are meeting the metrics, and yet you are not following them and moving into the stages of reopening? What is the purpose of establishing the metrics in your reopening plan if you and the district do not follow them? Simply put, we hear a lot of when the numbers allow. Well, the numbers in your reopening plan do allow. Instead, you leave it up to some vague interpretation, your interpretation. Follow your metrics on the reopening plan. Don't distract families with vague statements and colorful data that is not included in your reopening plan. If you need to reference them, they are on page 12 of your reopening plan. Follow your reopening plan metrics and allow our students to return to campus. We ask that the board is transparent and remind you that this is the same board that led our district into our budget crisis. Follow your reopening plan metrics. Communicate with families. Earn the trust of the community. Give families a choice to return to in-person instruction and lead the march back to campus quickly. There are no further comments.
Thank you. Let's see here. We did that. Clerk of the board, would you please read the items being pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, the following items have been pulled. Item F3 by staff. Item F6 by staff and the public. Item G3 by Mr. Tarantino. Item L1 by Mr. Tarantino. Item L2 by Mr. Tarantino. Item N2 by Mr. Tarantino. And item Q3 by Mrs. Hall.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Hall.
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, let's go to F3. Board report on board requests for information and policy direction to staff and board communication. Would anybody like to go first?
I
Ms.
will.
Hall. Thank you, Ms. Hall.
Thank you. Thank you, President Segura. I just wanted to say it's a shame to hear parents I'm thankful that there are parents who are supportive of our reopening plan in stages, that they are cognizant of the fact that we are taking the safety of our district, our area, our students, our families, and our staff as a main part of our consideration. It's unfortunate that people think we're not using science and data to make our decisions, which we are. I know that we have great staff doing that, and they are presenting the facts and in very clear way. If people don't understand that, I'm sorry for them, because I think we are doing it right. Also, we have published several memos. The staff has published several memos regarding athletics. The first one was in June that came out, and there have been several since, updating different takes on the whole plan to reopen and what's happening around athletics. You can find those published on the superintendent's page of our district website. You click on the board tab, and under that tab is superintendent, and then the superintendent's tab page, there's updates. Those updates include an update of several memos that you can read through regarding athletics and our plan to address the needs of students regarding athletics. So I just wanted to clarify that we are being communicative. I think the superintendent is doing everything he can, the staff is, to push this district forward in a manner that will meet everyone's needs. I understand there are several outspoken parents that feel that athletics is of primary importance to their student. I respect that. But to say that we're not doing things correctly and right is just wrong, in my opinion. And that's my opinion. So also, I'd like to say that I go and am part of a meeting every month. It's a collaboration of different people across the mental health services, people from the county mental health, from special programs, nonprofits, the County Office of Ed, the Department of Health and Human Services. It's about suicide prevention. And one of the things that we discuss is what's happening around people that are being sequestered, like we all are, through the COVID, and about mental health and what's happening with our students. And the County Office of Ed has a lot of program information and support that they're putting out there for districts, but also one of the program specialists has indicated that there has not been a rise in suicides, which is good news, that during the last few months, there has not been a significant rise in suicides. So that is really good news, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be still watching and supporting each other and supporting our students through that and really providing as much information. And I know school staff are, the counselors do, the nurses, the teachers are all out there trying to convey that information to our families and to our students and to each other, because everyone's at risk, of being sad during these times. But together we can make it through. So I just wanted to add that. I also wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Burks from our adult ed program. he was recognized at the honoring our own award ceremony for his work in our district, and I think that's really significant. I know that the staff really think the world of him. He's done a tremendous job, and I just wanted to give a shout out to him and say well done, and I'm glad you were recognized. It was a nice ceremony, and you can go, I think they still have the video link on the County Ed website. It's on YouTube. You can watch his the presentation that he had along with other people who were honored across the district. And so I also attended Mar Vista High's presentation to parents. Thanks to the counselors at Mar Vista High, they were doing a presentation. They did a video, both in Spanish and in English, for parents to learn and students about college applications and what they needed to do in order to be out there making sure that they're on track with what they need to do to apply for colleges. So I want to thank them, and I'm sure it's happening across our district. I want to thank everybody involved in that effort. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Hall. Any other board member want to speak on? There we go, Mr. Tarantino, go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, President Segura. I just want to remind everyone to vote. It's an important election, and especially high school students who are 18 years old and you've registered. And in lots of ways that you can vote. You can vote in person, you can vote by mail, you can off your ballot at libraries, fire stations, and at the registrar of voters, but it's important to vote. And I hope that you exercise your right to do that. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Any other trustee?
Yeah, I'd just like to see if we could get that information from DLAC put on a Friday update so that all the people can just be able to see that information or put it out to the people in an email or whatever. But I think it's important. I think there was a lot of really good stuff in there, and a lot of people probably have those questions, but they don't attend those meetings.
Thank you, Trustee Pike. Mr. Solis, did you want to say?
Yes,
I can't
thank
see
you.
you.
Yes, I wanted to say thank you for those previous comments with regards to voting. Sure you do get out and vote, and thank you for Ms. Hall for recognizing Dr. Burke. Yeah, I was part of the watching the WHO committee, and it was amazing to hear that he got awarded. Also, with regards to sorry, that just escaped me. I want to give up my condolences to the families of the two Sweetwater workers, and I really appreciate the work that they did, and really hope the family's strong, and we'll get through this, and they won't be forgotten. So thank you for that, and that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Solis. I'll just add briefly, I want to thank Trustee Hall for all your comments. I agree 100% with you. I think there's some misinformation out there, and if we can guide the community to our website where the information's at, that'd be great. That's where it's at, and I firmly believe that I have a daughter that's a senior that plays sports, and believe me, I know what it's like, and for her to be missing out on a lot of her senior year. It's just it's sad, but she gets it, and she understands it, and she wants to be safe, and she wants her teachers and to be safe, and she just that's just the way it is, and I will stand by that. I will not jump to a quick go back into the schools, and we can't do that. And I really appreciate the work that we've done, as announced by Superintendent Getty on the small group instruction. That's really going to be helpful, and that's the kind of steps we need to take while we're in these very extraordinary times. Thanks for reminding everybody to vote, Mr. Tarantino. I have a first-year voter in my house, so he voted for the first time, and it's quite a responsibility, and he did it. So that's all I have, and that's it. We'll move to F6.
Yes, I have one comment on this item from Nick Marinovich.
Please go ahead. Thank you.
Sorry, just waiting for it to open. The board is to be commended for agreeing to follow Board Policy 2120 and have a real search for the best superintendent for this district. In regards to Dr. Aguirre, it is stated in the letter, quote, the board selected him to serve in the role to manage the district through completion of the board's upcoming design and development of a superintendent selection process consistent with Board Policy 2120, which will commence early in the new year, end quote. Unless I missed it, this narrative description contained in the board letter involves policy and process, something that should have been discussed in open session. I guess this after the fact description is curious given Brown Act requirements. In closing, this is yet another opportunity to do the right thing and say publicly tonight as trustee, quote, we intend to have an open, fair, and inclusive process for selection of our new superintendent, end quote, rather than being stoic and thinking, let's see how the election comes out. Do the right thing. There are no further comments.
Can't hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Pike. Okay, we can throw it out there to the board members. Does anybody want to go first in discussion of F6? I will lead off. How's that? So first of all, I want to, I've been thinking about this and I worked with outside legal counsel and Dr. Aguirre and as directed by the board from the last meeting and getting the contract done with Dr. Aguirre. And so I've been, thinking about this since then and all weekend. And, I just want to, are you going to pull it up? Oh, great. I just want to say that I appreciate the job Dr. Aguirre has done since taking on this responsibility and these very extraordinary times, starting in, I think it was July. Is that correct? Seems a lot longer than that, but it's been a while. And, with his leadership that he has done, I wrote down a few things that I remembered, and there's probably more. I know there's more, but we worked on the Chula Vista Elementary School District, middle school expansion. We got that on hold at least for a little while. I think our collaboration has been has been his collaboration with the board and the community, all stakeholders, the unions. It's been very spot on. And I think it's, and I just truly believe that he's doing, a really good job. And, in the collaboration with the SDCOE, with the county, all the other people that we're speaking to and meeting with, we are really trying to get through, the issues that we still have at hand and move on. So I really appreciate the job he has done in these very difficult times, with our with COVID and reopening and all that we have to deal with, our budget. So that's where I'm at with this. Does any other board member want to go ahead and speak on this? Mr. Tarantino. We can't hear you, Mr. Tarantino.
Having dexterity issues. I think the board item requires us to determine the prorated salary. So I think there's a range that was given. I think if I understand the item correctly, I think it's our responsibility to determine the exact amount. Am I reading that correctly, or?
Yes, sir. You're absolutely correct. So there was a range there. I didn't want to be the one to throw out the number right away, but yes, that is our responsibility. And we had I had a suggested range of 225,000 to 235,000 annual prorated salary discussion. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. And I think, Dr. Gary took over and was not getting paid as superintendent up until we agreed to this. So he's been working at the assistant sup level pay. And I think, it's justified that he receives the 235. That's where I'm at, and that's I'm willing to, listen to others.
I don't know if someone's talking, but they're muted.
Yeah, it was Nick.
I have a question.
Oh.
I thought, is there any kind of statement in this contract? I can't find it where it talks about him returning to his previous position. And
yeah, it does.
Yes, there is. Let me bring it up.
I looked for it, but it wasn't clear to me that it's in there. So I do need it, have it pointed out exactly where that says clearly what happens.
Rights to return to a former position, number 12.
Yes,
12.
right here.
Okay. Boy, I read right through that one.
So it states there that he would, if whatever happens with our when we get to the point where we select another superintendent, that he will, if he applies and he does become the superintendent, he will go back to assistant superintendent of facilities and operations through until June 30th of 2022. We thought that was as very important to the board, that that he able to keep that position if he were not to be selected and somebody else were to come in.
Right. I just wanted to make sure. I wasn't sure if that end date really would be harmful if in fact it takes longer than a few months to find and replace, to name a superintendent or not. I just was concerned if that is going to cut that period down to less than a year. It might be, and I don't know if it would or not, because we don't know how this will roll out once we start the process. But I just thought I'd bring that up. Putting an exact date is kind of like, could terminate it before we really he has a full year to really, I don't know. That just seemed like that.
Well, that's the date we have in there. It could be modified.
Okay. Oh, that's true. Thank you.
And Mr. Tarantino, you have your hand up, sir.
I do. And I agree with you, Mr. Segura. I'm a firm believer that if someone does the work, they should receive the pay. And I think my question was that, he served since, I want to say, June 26th, 27th, until now. And like I said, he's been on his, as an acting superintendent, he was frozen at his same pay. So I agree with what you're recommending, that he did the work and he should be compensated for it. And I know that we can't go retro back to that time. So starting from now, I think it's a good idea. And
yes, sir.
If there's no other, pardon me, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No, I was going to say you are correct that we cannot go retro. That'd be could possibly be considered a gift of public funds. So that's why we started from this date going forward, sir.
If there's no other comments, I think Mrs. Hall wants to speak.
Ms. Hall, did you have another comment?
No. I was confused by the fact that you think it's a gift of public funds, because if somebody's been doing their work, I guess we're not reclassing them back to that because this is a contracted position. So that's probably the difference. It's not like a reclass of a position that exists that he was already working in. It's actually contracting him. So that's probably why you can't do it retroactively.
Yes, I'm not exactly sure if that's exactly right.
Mr. Segura, would you mind if I jump in?
Sure, go ahead.
Sure. So when Dr. Aguirre accepted the position to serve as the acting superintendent, you as a board did not bring forward another board item or have a discussion about changing his salary. And so therefore, from a compensatory perspective, we would have, it is more appropriate to do as you're doing now. You gave notice on October 12th that you would be considering a salary increase based on the change in his title. And so we did get advice from outside counsel that we are in the best position moving forward for you to, if you believe that he has done work uncompensated, that be considered for his salary from October 12th forward, as opposed to retroactively going back to where it could be considered a gift of public funds.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? If not, I think Mr. Tarantino wanted to make a motion.
I'll make a motion that the compensation for Dr. Aguirre should be $235,000 as an annual prorated salary for the duration of his term as interim superintendent.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion is seconded.
So let me ask you this, though. It says that the existing salary agreement is $243,308, and you're not going to give him that. You're going to give him less.
I'm basing it on the recommendation, which I understand was negotiated and worked out between Mr. Segura, the president, an outside counsel, and Dr. Aguirre.
Go ahead, Dr. Getty.
So first of all, I just want to say I'm very appreciative of this conversation, and regardless of where it turns out, you have my full-fledged commitment to continue to lead our district through such a difficult time, unprecedented in some ways. I know that Jenny can come in and talk about the specifics, but the conversation that I had with President Segura reflects this amount, and I believe that this is a fair amount. And again, my commitment is to continue to lead us through a difficult time to the best of my abilities in collaboration with all of our stakeholders, regardless of where they may be. I think it's important in this time to really kind of say what we mean and mean what we say. And that's the conversation I had with President Segura, and so that's what's in the agreement. And I'm okay with that. Regardless of other considerations, I appreciate those. But again, as somebody who believes in meaning what we say and saying what we mean, I believe this is a fair place to be at. And so I just wanted to express my gratitude and wanted to make sure I said that as well. This is where the conversations that I had, and I believe this is a fair place to be at. And so I just wanted to make sure I said that.
Thank you, sir. So with the motion is second, is there any other questions or comments from the board? No, vote please.
I'd just like to clarify the motion and second is to approve the draft employment agreement as presented with the salary set at $235,000 annual prorated. Is that correct, Mr. Tarantino?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Abstain.
Pike?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 abstain.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Getty. Let's move to G3.
Pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
Yeah, I had a question. We've this grant for 3 years. Are we keeping any statistics, or is this being done through the National Math Science Initiative people? In terms of have our pass rates for AP testing improved since the inception of this grant, the 3 years, or are we going to get some kind of accounting at the end of this year?
I'll ask Dr. Alvarez to take the lead on this question. This year is the 4th year, so it's we're in a little bit of overtime with NIMSY, and I think they've appreciated the relationship we have. But I think there are some unique aspects to it this year, so I'll ask Dr. Alvarez to respond.
Good evening, Dr. Aguirre, Mr. Segura, board members. Mr. Tarantino, that's a very good question. So both the district and NIMSY have been maintaining data regarding AP, not only enrollment, but also passage rate over the last 3 years. And the district, of course, has been monitoring AP passage rates and international baccalaureate passage rates over the last 5 years as this administration has been working on this specifically. We have demonstrated an increase in AP enrollment, and we have that data. And we also have demonstrated, even though we've increased the enrollment, our passage rates have also increased. And normally what happens is when you increase in a tremendous amount, as we did, in the number of students enrolled, usually the passage rate either remains static or decreases. We have actually been able to increase our passage rate during this time. We are maintaining continued records. We have the data for the last 3 years, and I can provide the board with an update of that data in a board update. And then for this upcoming grant, this has really been a testament to the relationship that we have developed with NIMSY. This is very rare. I don't think they've offered any other district a 4th year. And this is something that, because of the work that we've been working with them over the last 3 years, they offered to us. And it allows us to maintain our schools. In addition, it also provides laying the foundation professional development, which is for anyone who is not an AP teacher, but it also includes our 7th and 8th grade teachers. So it gives a continuum of supports for all of our teachers up to AP. And then we also, for our schools that are involved in the program, will continue to support with their professional development.
Thank you, Dr. Alvarez, and thank you for the oversight as well as the college readiness department, who at the time was under the direction of Elaine Liano, who brought this, who worked together with all of you and brought this forward. And congratulations for the great work, not only increasing AP enrollment, but also for the increased pass rate, because you hit it right on, Dr. Alvarez. Usually when one of the aspects go up, the other one usually goes down, and to have them both go up, I think, is a testament to not only our students and their teachers, but also to the district staff who worked together with this organization to make this happen. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. And the team continues to work. Ms. Liano secured this $8.5 million grant for the district in a very collaborative approach and partnership. It has continued under Mr. Cover and with the support of Dr. Leo Ulloa and our counselor on special assignment at the time previously, Nancy Nieto, and currently with Dr. Liliana Silva. So it has been a tremendous collaborative partnership across the district, inclusive of the site teams that on a daily basis work with the students and support them. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? I would just like to add, I appreciate that explanation, Dr. Alvarez, and I look forward to that information that you're going to share, that good information. So thank you. But I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded.
Sorry.
Vote, please.
Hall,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Let's go to L1.
Pulled by Mr.
Yeah, so I was noticing on L1 the certificated change of assignments. I noticed that there's a library media teacher who is now full-time, and I'm wondering what accounted for that, because I thought that the negotiated settlement was that it was going to the teacher librarians were going to be brought back based on the enrollment of the school site, and so I was wondering how that happened. Do you want the exact page? I can give you the exact page if you want. I just didn't want to call the person out, but on page 6.
Page 6.
So
Page 6 of 12, McBride, Sylvia McBride. And my understanding of what we negotiated was it was based on the enrollment of the school. And I don't know exactly what the enrollment of Castle Park High is, but I was just wondering how that happened. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, how did that happen? Because it's outside of what we negotiated in terms of how I understand what we negotiated.
Thank you, Trustee Tarantino. I'll ask Dr. Reyes in HR to address that question. Dr. Reyes?
hello, Mr. Tarantino. Thank you for the question. So just in general, I'll talk specifically about this one, but in general, the district did allocate a specific amount for each site. However, each site had the discretion to increase the allocation if they use their own in-ratio funds. In the case of this particular case, it's 40%, 40.4 FTE is paid from the district, and the 0.6 is in ratio. So it's coming from in ratio.
Thank you, Dr. Reyes. That's all I needed to know. Thanks.
Okay.
If there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I will make a motion to approve the item.
I'll second. Solis.
Thank you. Vote, please.
Hall,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes, and I'd also like to congratulate every teacher that moved, every teacher, counselor that moved from probationary to permanent status. Congratulations. Well done.
Outstanding.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Great. L2. Pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
Yes, along the same lines on page 1 of 2 for these classified change of status, change assignments. I'm noticing that there's a number of senior office assistants who were previously assigned to the Learning Center at various sites are now transferred as registrar at various sites. And I was wondering, a lot of the sites are high impact enrollment sites. And I was wondering, are there now 2 registrars at those sites or what?
So on this one, similar, I'll ask Dr. Reyes, can you provide a response?
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Tarantino. So as you may recall, there was closure of learning centers, and then there was a reopening of 3 learning centers. So the senior office assistants that were allocated at the learning centers that were at range 50, they when they reduced those positions, they were at range 50, 242 days. When they reduced the positions, they went up in range to 53 for registrar at 224 days. So it kind of compensated the reduction of days with an increase in range. So they are helping out with supporting the registration process of students at the sites.
So they are assisting on the comprehensive school campus, the registrar's work.
Correct. There are some, for example, I'm looking at the list. There's San Isidro High School, for example, and SUHI that is supporting both the Learning Center, because, for example, San Isidro High School, SUHI, Chula Vista, they have Learning Centers, so they're supporting both the Learning Center as well as the Comprehensive High School.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions from the board, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. Get that, Deanne?
I'll give it to Mr. Segura. Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
N2.
Pulled by Mr. Tarantino.
Yeah, I had a question. I was looking at the cost of the yearbooks, and I was wondering, in the age of COVID, are our yearbooks, especially for this year, are they impacted in terms of size and quantity of pages, because there's no activities taking place on campus? I know that, the seniors go off to a photographer that's contracted by the district to take their senior pictures. And I was wondering, are the underclassmen, is there an opportunity for them to have the yearbook? And how much, I'm looking specifically at Eastlake High School, $67,000, almost $68,000 for the yearbook publication in number of copies. Is that based on enrollment, or is that based on the size of the yearbook, or what? It just seems like if it's not going to be as big, we should have got a discount. But again, I don't know the specifics of that. So, and I don't know exactly what's going to be in a yearbook or not in the age of COVID. So any insight would be helpful.
Yeah, so I think this is probably going to be a team response. In terms of the past cost, Dr. Sokol, would you be able to comment on that, how this compares to that? And then in terms of what's actually going to be contained in the yearbook, I don't know that we necessarily have the answer at this point, but I'll ask for Ana Maria to see if, Dr. Alvarez, to see if she's connected with some of her sites to get some insight. So Jenny?
Thank you, Dr. Geary. And Trustee Tarantino, regarding the prior year cost, we'd have to look back to see that from a comparative standpoint. A lot of these discussions are had at the school site level with the vendor, with Jostens specifically here. Depends on various variables that determine that factor of that pricing. We would have to look back for each of these they had submitted last year.
Oh, okay. I was just, I don't know. I said I was just wondering, how the COVID affects the yearbook, and I know that we are going to have athletics and clubs, but I don't know I don't know exactly how much is going to be in it or not. So I was just wondering.
And Trustee Tarantino, part of the answer to that question is we're still developing our approach because there might be a possibility, for example, to do the headshots of students in a kind of a drive-up kind of process. So we're exploring different alternatives that we don't necessarily have the answer to right now. So it's likely we could do some of the activities, but we can follow up with school sites and provide a Friday update in terms of what are different sites' expectation for purposes of the yearbook.
Okay, thank you. Nice job.
Thank you, Mr. Tarantino, for those questions. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? If not,
I do have a comment. I would ask Dr. Aguirre to touch base with our student board member and have her bring back a report on some of the activity as it relates to Mr. Tarantino's questions, because I'm sure that she has, been talking with her other student board members, with her other ASB presidents and staff across the district on these issues. So that would be helpful and give us insight through a student side. Thank you. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve the item.
I will second it. Thank you for that. The vote, please.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, let's go to the last one. It's just Q3 pulled by Trustee Hall.
This is, thank you, President President Segura. Getting Tarantino on the brain, I guess. This is, I hope you all read through this resolution about the digital divide that we are really feeling now in our area across our district since COVID. It's really become, very much exasperated about how those that have access and those that don't, and how it affects our lives. And there's a coalition that I've met with several times. Dr. Aguirre has also met with a representative along with me for a meeting. They're doing great effort to try and coalesce collaboration across our district so that we can ensure our community across Chula Vista and the South Bay, San Diego, Imperial Beach, all have access as, not only to broadband, but to fiber technology, because as cities go make agreements with different providers of these services, where they usually put the emphasis is in already really served areas where the technology already exists, and not in the areas where it is sorely needed. So I think as we move efforts through with this coalition, it's really important that we all are engaged with it so that we can really have a good collaboration and effort along with our elected officials at the state and the city level, as well as the federal level, to hold the providers to a standard that will really bring our communities into equitable status and access. So if you would like more information on that, I will send out, you can contact me, but I will give Deanne Besato, our board clerk, some information so that if anyone wants to contact the board office, she can provide that information so that they can learn more. And that's all I had to say. And I'll make a motion to approve it.
Thank you, Trustee Hall.
I'll second.
Moved in second. Vote, please.
Hall?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great. That takes care of tonight's business. And we are